we can make sure that those weapons of war that I carried in war is the only place where
Democrat
those weapons
Governor
are.
Tim Walz with a whopper of a lie, a gigantic, huge, bigger than Da Nang Dick fraud perpetrated by Kamala Harris's running mate about his life and his time in the Minnesota Army National Guard. But as is so often the case with Democrats, not an issue for him, because our dirty, rotten, filthy, corrupt, really awful news media more concerned about getting into the hot tub full of lubricant with their Democrat pals. It's all fine. It's all fine. Can say whatever he wants. Just like John Kerry. Just like Richard Blumenthal, the Democrat senator. His claims of serving in Vietnam, stolen valor, remarkable things we're seeing in American politics today. Well, happy Thursday to you, and welcome back once again. We continue to be at 888-630-9625. And let me go, because we just played Walz there with his big lie carrying weapons of war in war. Something he most definitely did not do, because when it was announced that his unit in the Minnesota Army National Guard would be deploying to Iraq, he decided that'd be a really good time to leave the Minnesota Army National Guard, and so he did. However, Jeff, if you go to soundbite number 13, we will go to an actual Minnesota Army National Guard Sergeant Major named Thomas Behrens. And Thomas Behrens, he was on the television last night on the Laura Ingraham program on the Fox News channel, and some remarkable moments for him. He actually published an article, 2018, I think it was, on how Tim Walz claims about his service. In the end, there was real service. He doesn't have to lie about it. He should just tell the truth about his time in the Army National Guard, and he should be proud of it. But instead of being proud, which he should be, he lies and he exaggerates and embellishes, and that's what is being focused on, not by the news media, of course, because they're awful, terrible, dishonest, corrupt people almost universally in the American news media. Certainly at ABC News, where the pond is stocked with Democrat Party apparatchiks all over the place, from George Stephanopoulos, a Democrat Capitol Hill staffer, Democrat presidential campaign staffer, Democrat White House staffer, Bill Clinton campaign, and then, bam, overnight, one of America's leading journalists. Let's go over to CNN, where Jake Tapper, a former Democrat Capitol Hill staffer, sits next to Jim Sciutto, who's a former Obama administration official, or to NBC News, where Chunk Todd, his mom calls him Chunk, where Chunk Todd, a former Democrat Senate campaign staffer, and his wife, a longtime Bernie Sanders political operative, bringing in millions of dollars from the Bernie Sanders Bolshevik campaign. Speaking of which, it was Bernie Sanders that honeymooned in the Soviet Union. When the Soviet Union was still the USSR, that's where Bernie Sanders decided to honeymoon. And Tim Walz honeymooned with his wife in communist China. I think I see a trend emerging here. And let's not forget Eric Swalwell, the Democrat congressman from California, House member, who had a years-long sexual affair with a Chinese secret agent who was going by the name Fang Fang. Fang Fang went the trolley, and so that's great. And, a Democrat senator from California, Dianne Feinstein, had a Chinese secret agent on her staff for years and years and years before the FBI decided to let her know that this guy's a Chinese spy, tapped into all of her everything. But never mind that. The Chinese are are everywhere. And, we had to point out that Harvard had in their employ Chinese spies that had to be let go by Harvard a couple of years ago and sent back to China because they were spies. And it was Harvard that sent Tim Walz all those years ago to teach English in communist China. Then he visited communist China apparently 30 times. They're saying approximately. They don't know exactly how many times, but 30 times to visit communist China. He honeymooned in communist China, and he got married on the anniversary of Tiananmen Square. Deliberately and knowingly, he chose the anniversary of the massacre of students in communist China. He chose to get married. He bragged about it in an interview some time back, that very excited to get married on the anniversary of the massacre of Tiananmen Square. And he kept going back to China over and over again to visit his communist Chinese friends. And, of course, the Biden family going into China when Joe Biden was vice president of the United States, and he brought his crackhead stripper knocker-upper son, Hunter Biden, to communist China, where they assured us he did not have any business meetings, and we learned much later that they were lying, and they did, in fact, have business meetings, and the Biden family bringing in how much money? Just hundreds of thousands, or was it millions of dollars from communist China? Communist Chinese have wheedled their way very comfortably into the Democrat Party, even as Eric Swalwell wheedled his way very comfortably into the Chinese secret agent Fang Fang that was sent to the United States to make her way into the Democrat Party, and she was very successful in doing so. Just remarkable things. And if we had a news media, what would they say about all of this? Remarkable stuff. But let's go to the veteran who served in Tim Walz's battalion in the Minnesota Army National Guard. He addressed the matter of Tim Walz's stolen valor, his again, I want to play the short little Tim's big lie about carrying weapons of war in war.
We can make sure that those weapons of war that I carried in war is the only place where those weapons are at.
Big lie, absolute lie, just a flagrant lie. Remarkable stuff. And now a veteran who served with Tim Walz, well, in the same unit, a veteran who served with Kamala Harris's running mate, Governor Tim Walz, accused him of embellishing his time in the service and abandoning his unit just before they deployed. In an interview Wednesday night on the Ingram Angle on the Fox News Channel last night, retired Command Sergeant Major Thomas Behrens. Now, Tim Walz has claimed that he was a Command Sergeant Major, and it turns out for various very real, if somewhat technical reasons, he was not retired. He briefly wore the rank of Command Sergeant Major, but he did not complete the requisite work associated with that, and so he was never a confirmed Command Sergeant Major, and he was reduced in rank as he retired from, quit the Minnesota Army National Guard as his unit was being deployed to Iraq. Yet he still claims that he carries weapons of war in war, and that is not true. Now, the retired actual Command Sergeant Major, Thomas Behrens, said he was a member of Walz's battalion, scolded the Minnesota governor for misleading the American public about his military career. His service concluded when he retired from his unit in the Minnesota National Guard right before they deployed to Iraq in 2005, as has been reported in the New York Post, but not the Washington Post or the New York Times, because they don't report the news. They cover up the news for the Democrat Party. The Minnesota National Guard told Fox News Walz's unit was not given deployment orders to Iraq until July, and he had put in his retirement papers 5 to 7 months prior to his retirement in May of 2005. Now, let's go to actual Command Sergeant Major Thomas Behrens last night on the Laura Ingraham Show.
It is stolen valor. He's used the rank that he never achieved in order to advance his political career. He's done it for decades now.
For 20 years, and the actual Command Sergeant Major isn't putting up with any of this stuff. He was on Fox last night.
He still says he's a retired command sergeant major to this day, and he's not.
And he's not. Just a minor thing when you're a Democrat, right? And again, CNN is still lying to everybody about all of it. It's a remarkable thing, the Democrat Party, and what they get away with thanks to their naked hot tub love affair with the American news media. Where do they find so many corrupt people in the American news media? Just extraordinary. Let's take a phone call, Jeffrey. Let's go to Jerry calling from Lovettsville, Virginia. He is on line 6. Jerry, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hi, Chris. Thanks for taking my call.
You betcha.
I wanted to talk to you about the verbiage and the wording buried inside Mr. Walz's comments there. The use of the word weapons of war. The left keeps, like you say, using these terms so ill-defined, just like assault rifle, very ill-defined. Weapons of war, even less defined. There are so many weapons of war, and he's talking like he wants to get rid of them. There are shotguns that are brought in urban environments in certain circumstances. Both long-range precision rifles. All of these are weapons of war. Is he talking about all of this?
Sure, a 9mm semi-automatic pistol is a weapon of war. A 45 caliber, 1911 handgun, a pistol is a weapon of war. They're all weapons of war. And, in the end, what they want is to eliminate the Second Amendment, right?
Absolutely. That's what it's working towards. Pay attention to the words that are being used. And what you think they mean are not necessarily what they are using them for.
Yeah, that's you're on to them. You're absolutely right, of course. And they love the term assault weapon, right? And they banned them before, and it had no effect on the number of Democrats murdering people or the number of Democrats shooting people, none whatsoever. I think personally, I've been an advocate of this for a long time, Jerry, that if you're a registered Democrat, that you shouldn't be allowed to purchase a firearm.
I wouldn't go that far, but
You're very generous.
I'm a big Second Amendment guy.
Yeah. Who's shooting everybody? The reality is, you look at where all the shootings are taking place and where all the murders are taking place. Washington, D.C. last year, we had a 25 or 26 year high in the number of murders. We were the murder capital of the world in the 1990s here in Washington, D.C., when handguns were flat out illegal in the hands of anyone living in the district, in effect, except Democrat Party friends that got special licenses, but that was it. Couldn't own a handgun in your home. And we had the murder capital of Western civilization title for years when handguns were completely banned in the city. But if you look at where all the murders and where all the shootings are taking place, Jerry, it's Chicago and Washington, D.C. and Baltimore, and they're Democrat-run cities where they've got like 96% Democrat voting rate. And it seems to me that Democrats are not responsible gun owners. And if you're looking for something, don't worry about what they call assault rifles, which are used in 0.01% of crimes and homicides. But Democrats, it seems to me, are the real problem.
Problem, yes. I'll agree with you there. And you bring up a great point. All the focus is always on assault rifles. I have this conversation a lot with some of my more liberal friends, and they go, "Well, it's because they can kill so many more people than a handgun." And I'm going, "Okay, so what's the allowable rate of killing before we have to ban the rifle or ban the weapon?"
Right. Yeah, and tell them to put out a Jason Bourne movie and see what pistols can do.
Anyway, thanks for taking my call, Chris. I'll let you get back to your show.
Thank you, Jerry. It's they are a cacistocracy, the Democrat Party, and what we have now is cacistocracy, ruled by the most ignorant, incapable people that live among us, and that's where we are. Cacistocracy, a fun word. Thanks, Jerry. You know, Eden Pure is having their famous BOGO deal right now. That's their buy one, get one deal on the Thunderstorm air purifier. When you buy one Thunderstorm, you get one for free. It doesn't matter how many you buy. You can buy 5 Thunderstorms and you get 5 for free. Isn't that great? You can give them away as gifts. You can put them all over the house and the office too. The Thunderstorm will help completely eliminate any odor, even the worst odors, cigarette smoke and cooking, your mother-in-law's cooking, even left-wing protesters. No match for the Eden Pure Thunderstorm. The O3 molecules in the Thunderstorm seek out and destroy odors in behind and underneath furniture. Nothing can hide from the Thunderstorm. And right now, it's the time to order. The Eden Pure's buy one, get one free sale is for a limited time only, so don't sit around and wait. Thousands of 5-star reviews online. Works like a champ. We've got 2 of them at home ourselves. People are buying several for around the entire house and even as gifts, too, you know, for your teenager or whoever, your college student. Just go to EdenPureDeals.com. Use the discount code ChrisBogo. That's CHRIS, of course, BOGO. That's EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is ChrisBogo. Yes, sir. Yeah, Democrats, they just, their instincts are authoritarian, totalitarian. What they do not want to mandate, they want to ban, and vice versa. All of their instincts are Sylvia, and I got to tell you, Walz, I've got an update for you on Walz and his ties to communist China, too.
You're listening to The Chris Plante Show.
You know, Tim Walz, as governor, ordered that tampons and other feminine hygiene products, as they have sometimes been known, he ordered that tampons be put in the boys' rooms at all of the schools across the state of Minnesota because they think that boys might be girls and boys can get pregnant and something is wrong with their brains. They've abandoned science and culture and history and language. Other than that, they're doing very well. And now the crazy people in the news media, they're attacking anybody that mentions, you know, he's got a nickname now, Tampon Tim, because of the tampons in men's rooms. And the Los Angeles Times has a story today. Republicans, quote, Tampon Tim, end quote, joke about Walz is already backfiring because they think it's good. It's quite remarkable, these people. It's already backfiring. Megyn Kelly's embrace of Tampon Tim insults backfires badly. Why is that, you might want to know? Well, it takes a Democrat to explain this one. That's coming up.
This is The Chris Plante Show.
Yes. Tim Walz, he's there, man. He lies a lot. He makes stuff up, but that's okay. It's not going to be a problem. He's got plenty of backup. You know, the American news media and all that, because it's good to be a Democrat. They got you. No matter what you do, you can kill Mary Jo Kopechne upside down in a car and then slither out and go to brunch, and they'll have your back, run you for president later. That's not a problem. Like Denang Dick, Richard Blumenthal, Democrat senator, claiming he served in Vietnam, claiming repeatedly that he served in Vietnam when he, in fact, never set foot in Vietnam. He did wear a Marine Corps uniform. That should be good enough, quite honestly, but no. It's a remarkable time, and sorting through the BS is a major task. We don't have a news media in a Western sense because they've been so corrupted, for the most part willingly. But NBC Fake News has a headline today. Walz brings extensive China experience to Democratic ticket. Yeah, I guess you could say that. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, his history with China could be a point of contention in the presidential campaign at a time when both parties advocate being tough on Beijing. Really? Is that what we see happening with Joe Biden, the Biden family, and their business ties to communist China and so on? Just amazing stuff. Before being named Vice President Kamala Harris's running mate, Tim Walz's career included extensive experience with China, NBC News types. Jennifer Jett, Democrat at NBC Fake News. A relationship that drew immediate GOP criticism, but not the news media, and became a hot topic of discussion on Chinese social media on Wednesday. The Minnesota governor's ties to the country, which stretch back to his first days out of college, have been a constant in his career. His history with Beijing, which increasing numbers of Americans view as an enemy, they put enemy in quotation marks, could be a point of contention in the presidential campaign at a time when being tough on the rival superpower is one of the few issues both parties can agree on. Now, they then go on to attack Republicans. Republicans will undoubtedly attack Walz for his early experiences in China, which are more extensive than most previous presidential and vice presidential nominees, and have already started doing so, says Austin Strange, an assistant professor, international relations, University of Hong Kong. Now, the crazy thing here is they love to say that he was sent there, and I've seen this published again and again and again, that he was sent there as part of a Harvard. It was a Harvard thing, right? So I looked this up, and it turns out that Walz attended, what's it called? Chadron State University, got his bachelor's degree, Minnesota State University, Mankato, for his master's degree. That's not, he didn't attend Harvard University, which might be a plus, actually, but they say that after first graduating from college in 1989, spending a year teaching English and American history and culture at a high school in southern China, the city of Foshan, through Harvard's World Teach program. Now, again, he didn't attend Harvard, but Harvard sent him to communist China, and I think that's wonderful. Again, graduating college in 1989, his arrival concluded or coincided with the deadly crackdown by Chinese authorities on pro-democracy protesters in and around Tiananmen Square in Beijing that severely strained China's international relations. They leave out that they massacred thousands of democracy-starved students there. Now, they talk about his wife, how he married his wife, Gwen. They were married on June 4th, 1994, which was the 5-year anniversary of the Tiananmen Square massacre. They call it a crackdown here at NBC News. And he says, the newspaper reporting his wife, Gwen, who loves the smell of napalm in the morning, said he wanted to have a date he'll always remember, Gwen Walz, a fellow teacher, told a local newspaper before their wedding. So they chose the anniversary of the massacre at Tiananmen Square. And, of course, he has now visited communist China about 30 times. They chose their wedding date because it was the anniversary of the massacre at Tiananmen Square. That's more than a little strange, I think I've got to say. Sent there by Harvard, the news media will tell you 100 times without ever mentioning that he didn't actually go to Harvard, but to Chadron State College and Minnesota State University, Mankato. Isn't that remarkable? Yes, it is. And they still claim on his Wikipedia page that he achieved the rank of Command Sergeant Major, which, you know, is kind of a technical maybe, but he didn't retire at that rank. So he was reduced in rank. That's kind of a peculiar thing. Isn't that amazing? And he's talking about doing away with weapons of war, like the weapons of war that he carried in war, which is a big lie. And there's been a lot of back and forth on that in the last few minutes with my friends and so on. It's, guns don't kill people. Democrats kill people. And it's like the T-shirt I shared with you at the Dulles Expo Center gun show a few weeks ago. Now, man was wearing a T-shirt that said, "Guns don't kill people. Alec Baldwin kills people." The guns don't kill people. Alec Baldwin kills. And honestly, we should have a T-shirt that says, "Guns don't kill people. Democrats kill people." And Democrats perhaps should be prohibited. They want to restrict our First Amendment rights and our Second Amendment rights and our Fourth Amendment rights and our Sixth and Ninth Amendment rights. But maybe we should just take away their Second Amendment rights. It'd make the country a much safer place if Democrats didn't have guns. It'd be much better for everyone. Yeah, so they chose their wedding date, June 4th, 1994, the 5-year anniversary of the Tiananmen Square massacre. Isn't that amazing? And then they honeymooned in communist China. Got a lot of this commie thing flying around in the Democrat Party ranks, don't we? Yes, we do. Boy, oh boy. I'm telling you. These guys. So many wild things to share today. Let me get to. In fact, let's take a phone call, Jeffrey, because there are a lot of things. And I did mention also that the news media is attacking anybody that calls him Tampon Tim because he mandated that men's rooms, boys' rooms in schools be provided with tampons and other feminine products. And so he has, earned the nickname Tampon Tim. And the news media is now up in arms about that because they're insane and they've rejected science and culture and civilization itself there for Hamas. Megyn Kelly's embrace of, quote, Tampon Tim, end quote, insult backfires badly. Backfires badly, according to the Huffington Post. Megyn Kelly seemed to channel Gretchen Wieners. I think that's like a Mean Girls reference or something. On Wednesday, except instead of trying to make fetch happen, little inside Mean Girls stuff, she tried to turn Tampon Tim into a trending term. It really wasn't her. It was all over the internet. She may have been a small part of it, but it was everywhere because he mandated tampons in boys' rooms in schools, and he's also the founding father of the Gay Straight Alliance Club in his high school when he was a high school teacher. The appellation for Minnesota Governor Tim Walz is meant to be an insulting reference to his decision last year to sign a bill requiring schools in the state to provide free menstrual products in the boys' rooms in schools. Yeah, sure. The bill allows for feminine hygiene products to be placed in boys' bathrooms as well as girls. I think it mandates, actually, but you guys lie all the time. So you got to fact check every sentence that the Huffington Post would put out there. Something that conservatives are hoping they can weaponize against Walz, whom Vice President Kamala Harris has chosen as her running mate in the 2024 election, in case you didn't know. On X, they still like to say, formerly known as Twitter, Megyn Kelly approvingly responded to a post by someone else, so she didn't start it, that described Tampon Tim as Kamala's dead weight. Tampon Tim is the name, Megyn Kelly wrote to her 3 million-something followers. That's it. So that was making its way all over the internet. But now what's happening is the Democrats all over the media, the Los Angeles Times and beyond, are trying to turn it into a positive, as though he's enlightened. They're actually pushing forward with this. No, there should be tampons in boys' rooms because they might menstruate and they might give birth. They might become pregnant because the Democrat Party has become the party of insane people. Honestly, what is the matter with you people? And they've got headlines all over the place. Oh, is Tampon Tim supposed to be an insult? Well, only for people that aren't mentally ill. But never mind that. Boy. And, multiple articles attacking Megyn Kelly and attacking anybody that because it's not an insult to call him Tampon Tim just because he mandated tampons in boys' rooms in schools. The Democrat Party says that's good. That's good stuff. Aren't they amazing? Yes, they are. They have lost their minds. And science is really not their thing, is it? Boy, it's not their thing. Let's go to soundbite number 6, Jeff. Let's go to J.D. Vance because J.D. Vance, this is a pretty fun story. It's a fun story. J.D. Vance was in the same city as Kamala and Tampon Tim, as he is fondly known by the American news media and the Democrat Party. And the airplanes were on the same tarmac, and an actual Iraq vet, J.D. Vance, walked over to Air Force 2, as it is sometimes known, the U.S. Air Force 757 transport plane, executive transport plane out of Joint Base Andrews with the 89th Airlift Wing at Andrews. And he decided to make a little bit of funny. J.D. Vance, number 6.
I figured I'd come by and, one, get a good look at the plane, because hopefully it's going to be my plane in a few months. But I also thought you guys might get lonely because the vice president doesn't answer questions from reporters.
Yeah, but the reporters don't care. Here's the funny thing. They don't ask her questions, and if they ever do get around to asking her questions, it'll be about things like her favorite ice cream and hard-pressing questions like that. J.D. Vance having a little fun.
Hope that she changes her mind, because it'd be good for the American people, and I think it'd be good for you all if she actually ran a real campaign.
Yeah, if she run a real campaign, she doesn't have to do that. See, the thing is, funny thing, it's not really very funny, but it's peculiar at least. The Democrats are campaigning without campaigning at all, just like Joe Biden did from the basement 4 years ago. Now Kamala is not campaigning. She's not doing interviews. She's not doing press conferences. She's been the one for, 18 days or something now. And she doesn't have to do interviews with the news media, and they don't harangue her about it. She doesn't have to do press conferences, and they don't harangue her about it because it's good to be a Democrat. This could change the way presidential politics proceed forever, permanently, because the Democrats, in bed with a corrupt news media, have changed the way we elect presidents. I've been talking about this for years. It's all a terrible television show, and it's a terrible cable television show. They don't have to campaign because the media does all their work for them, right? That's the crazy thing about being a Democrat, is the Democrats have the campaign run for them by the news media. They don't have to campaign. But how does this affect the next presidential campaign? Because the Democrats now, the lesson that they're learning is that they don't have to campaign, that they don't have to have primaries. They don't have to stick with the person that won the primaries. They've murdered democracy in the name of saving democracy. While they're claiming that they're saving democracy, our democracy is unrecognizable at this point. Joe Biden was the nominee because he won all the primaries. And then he stepped aside and passed the torch. And Kamala, who didn't win a single vote, we're told in a headline, she's won all of the electors. Really? How'd that happen? Well, by way of corruption, of course. And we have a news media that sits there with their tongues, I don't want to say where, wagging. I'll just say wagging their tongues. Clean it up. Isn't that amazing? So why would the Democrats ever campaign again in the way that we used to campaign and choose nominees for major political parties and choose presidents in the United States? Why would the Democrats go back to that? There's no reason for them to go back to that. The news media is Soviet style, advancing their one-party system, the Democrat Party. They're planning on ushering her into the White House with Tim Walz, who did not go into combat, even though he says he did, who was not a command sergeant major, even though he says he was, and on and on. The truth is getting harder and harder to find because of Democrats and the news media, but I repeat myself. You know that we're seeing major shifts in the American political landscape, and it's urgent that we all be prepared for this. The latest polls showing that voters may be shifting their support, of course, and there's been an 11-point swing, a reversal from May. Polls aren't perfect predictors, but they give us a snapshot, a sense of where things are headed, and the race is tightening up now. You may have noticed it's time to take action to protect your finances and your retirement, your future, regardless of who wins in November. For a whole lot of Americans and in certain times, taking action means protecting our financial future. Am I right? That's where investing in precious metals comes in. Gold has, throughout all of human history, almost always been the best hedge against economic and political turmoil and uncertainty. And when it comes to gold, I recommend reaching out to my trusted friends at Advantage Gold. Give Advantage Gold a call today at 844-368-9797 for a free 2024 gold and silver guide. Their gold and silver kit is great. Plus, you mentioned that you heard this ad, and you may qualify for a special $1,300 bonus, a $1,300 bonus. So make sure you take steps to help secure your financial future and your family's financial future. Keep it on solid ground as the political landscape turns to liquid beneath our feet. Call today, 844-368-9797. That's 844-368-9797. Performance may vary. You should consult your financial and tax professional. Yes, sir. Yeah, our political system is unrecognizable. And it really falls to the corrupt news media with their wagging tongues and their little powwows on Kamala's plane that are off the record. I have a pretty good idea what's on the record, but you shouldn't run a black light past it.
There's only one Chris Plant. The Chris Plant Show.
The Democrat Party has a lot of serious psychological issues, and the LA Times has put one of them on parade today. A column there, Tampon Tim is a litmus test for American men. That's not true, of course, but I think that it is for the Democratic Party because they've got a lot of gender issues, these people. The article is almost impossible to believe. I may share portions of it with you. The least offensive, the least mentally ill, or maybe the most mentally ill.